Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pregame Network podcast. This is episode 98. I am your host, Dan, joined by my bestest pal, as per usual, Anthony, the
Hello.
only gaming news show on the internet, not afraid to fucking offend anybody. We're getting real close to that triple digit, buddy. Real
hmm
close.
You
Just two more
you know
weeks.
that's a huge milestone for us, but I mean that's like what 100 out of like I don't know. We'll probably be dead by like 3,000. We got a long road ahead of us. So
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at the like the playlist on YouTube, and the viewership has been pretty solid.
yeah, we do get decent viewers, and for anyone new and old joining us, I mean it's a small group, but we're glad you tune in every week. We're glad you're enjoying. For anybody who's new, we always we welcome newcomers and all that kind of good stuff.
Indeed, indeed. So, as usual, we'll go over what we've been playing this week and then jump into whatever happened this past week in the world of video games. I will go first. I have a lot to say for what I've been playing
Oh
this week,
shit!
and I'm
Well, now
excited about it.
you have my
So,
full attention, good sir.
so I have been all over the goddamn place.
Oh,
Okay, so I played a little bit of Cleared Hot. Remember that like isometric helicopter game that I
yes,
brought up?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, like
So
Desert
they
Storm and
got
all that.
they got a new content update of like an arcade mode or like random arcade style mission objectives and then a wave-based horde mode type of thing. So that's always
Oh,
cool. Been putzing around in Battlefield 6 a little bit with the new season, or I shouldn't
mm-hmm.
say new season, with one
The
third of
season
the
reloaded,
season that
or whatever the
Dice,
fuck.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that just I've got so much to say on Battlefield 6, but I'll save it. I bought the new Starship Troopers game called Ultimate Bug War, and it's from
Oh,
the same guys who made Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun. Remember that boomer shooter that I played last year?
yes.
So same guys that made Bolt Gun that and are also making Bolt Gun 2. They made Starship Troopers Ultimate Bug War, and it's pretty good. It feels very similar to Bolt Gun, but that is to be expected because it's the same like vein of game, and it's obviously made by the same people. But like the game itself, you know how you've never seen the movie, right? Let me just start there.
No, I have. I watched it with you. What are you talking? I remember.
Have you?
Well,
I'm not. I'm
yeah,
not surprised.
yeah.
So
We've
you know
seen it.
how like the movie is like a very satirical take on fascism and like a whole civilization or a whole species like going to war with another one and like it's all
Well,
like a
to answer your question, I'm just gonna say yes because I've having seen the movie and seen one too many online conversations about it. I will just nod and say yes. I'm
okay,
not gonna start
fair
somebody
enough.
else's argument with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
no,
I
no,
know. I
please
know
don't.
the
I'm
story. I've seen the film.
yeah. So the premise of Ultimate Bug War is the game that you're playing, like the game that I'm playing, is a recruitment tool in game for like
A
you
little
know
meta thing going on.
yeah, for like kids like fucking what is it like 13 to 30 or something like that,
Something
like
like
in
that.
the actual game world to recruit them into the mobile infantry.
Hmm.
But it's a good time. It's fun. So I started that. What else have I been doing? I have to go back in my recent played. Toxic Commando. I've been dabbling here and there. Haven't put as much time into that as I thought I was going to. At least not yet. I don't think it's bad by any stretch, but I have so much on my plate as far as video games go that I have been neglecting Toxic Commando. We played a little bit of finals yesterday, but I
Nice.
was not really feeling it, and I don't
Mm.
think Harrison was either. It was just we've been out of
There,
out of practice for very
we've
long.
been at it for a bit. I've kept abreast of some of the final stuff as far as like just general community reactions, and the sentiment right now is that it's kind of like at a tipping point with like what audience it's catering to, like the
Yeah.
competitives versus the casuals, and right now it seems like they're struggling with that. I mean, I don't know. I play it whenever I play it. I have a good time. There's very like my threshold for punishment, I guess,
Huh.
is much higher than either of yours.
Yeah.
Just because it's like I can land, I fight the good fight until the fucking bell rings. So like I wasn't quite feeling it as much as you were, but I get it,
Yeah.
especially if we haven't played in a while.
Yeah, yeah, true. So we did a little bit of that. It only lasted
Yeah,
for like less than an hour, I think, or maybe just about an hour.
like 50
Um,
minutes ish.
yeah, give or take. So I got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 on sale on Steam for like
Hmm.
$6 or something, right?
Yeah.
And I I might as well talk about this now because we're never going to bring it up again. But I installed it on my laptop and I started playing it yesterday, and the game actually like went through the roof as far as player count goes on at least
That
on
doesn't surprise
Steam.
me.
Yeah, so it actually hit its all-time player peak 10 hours ago at
Get the
61,000 players.
fuck out of here! Wow.
Yep. Which is why I put this in the chat, because I just think that the whole Modern Warfare 19 situation is just fucking crazy, because they slashed the price by like 90%, and the game absolutely exploded in popularity, at least on PC. I don't know what it's like on console, but
I
I
still
was
cross-play,
playing.
so it's not a huge
Yeah,
problem. Right?
I was playing last night, and I didn't realize it, but Steam is linked to my Activision account, and my Activision account pulled all the shit that I unlocked from Xbox. So I had like all my stuff from 7 years ago, and I sitting there playing Modern Warfare. I'm like, I cannot believe it's been 7 years. That game looks better than most of the shit that we get today, as far as first-person shooters go.
It's interesting to like look at Modern Warfare 19 now, and like ignoring the time gap for a second, just the way it has kind of aged, right? It's like we talk about that game now the same way when that game was coming out we talked about Call of Duty 4. It really it's a solid game. It's a good game.
Rock solid. And so it's obvious that when I jumped into a match, I thought people were cheating, because the rate at which I was getting destroyed was unprecedented, especially like for me, because I was all about I put almost 800 hours into
We played a shit ton of that.
Yeah, Modern Warfare when it came out 7 years ago. But like I kind of got my feet back into it again, and I was doing well, but you know, there is a core audience that never left that game, and it's very obvious when you jump back into multiplayer. But goddamn, was that game so fucking good? It still is good.
Yeah.
It's still way better than any COD that's come out since 2019.
Yeah.
It's just wild, man. Absolutely crazy. There's 21,000 players playing right now.
That's crazy. I mean, if you ever want to play that, I'll play that with you.
Yeah, totally.
It's a good time.
So I've been dabbling in that a little bit. We played a little bit of Darktide last night. The expedition mode is a lot of fun, but it is unforgiving. I was
surprised at the difficulty. I mean, I know I'm undertuned. Like, obviously, I'm not as dedicated as you are, but like, I'm a reasonable level. I have my talents squared away. I've played around with the different weapons. That's like 2-shot, 3-shot in some cases. Like it's brutal. That being said, I do like. Yeah, I do like the layout and the pacing. I think it's a well-paced match, which is good, because it's like, what's the timer start at? Like 10, 15 minutes, and then like you can get extensions. 18, I think. Okay, like it feels like you can play that, and it would almost be shorter than like an average Darktide offering. And that's kind of nice, considering, like, don't get me wrong, if you like it, or if you haven't played it in a while, it's nice to sit down and just be able to put like 45 minutes and up into a game and just have a good time. But it's like sometimes you want something a bit quicker paced.
Yeah, and I don't know if they give you more time the higher difficulties you go, because we played difficulty 1 and 2, and then when I jumped in by myself last night after you guys got off, I did the 3rd difficulty out of four, and it was tough. It was really hard, because like you need to build out your character for basically every possible scenario. There's different armor levels, range versus melee. You have to there's the Rager, which is the guy, kind of like he has like the Bane like venom things in his back, and he has 2 hatchets that he runs around with. He cannot be staggered except for like shock, or I think the Ogren grenade. I'm probably wrong, but the stagger requirement for that unit in particular is very, very high. And like my point being, if you're not built to handle that, like they will down you like very quickly. So it's a very challenging game, but that's part of the reason why I like it so much. But definitely plan on putting a lot more time into it. Speaking of putting a lot of time into something, the Division 2 got me, dude.
I noticed you've been playing a lot of that.
Yeah, I've been playing it basically all day today, and it didn't hurt that. So yesterday, before you and Harrison got on, I was doing a mission. I kept on dying, and when you die in the Division, you have the option to call for help for like another player or another agent or whatever. So some guy joined my game, and he was like super friendly, but he didn't have a mic, but so we were just talking over the in-game chat. He was super friendly. He was helping me through a bunch of shit. He sent me a friend request and like invited me to his clan and everything. And then while I was playing today, he hopped in my party, and we just blew through a bunch of shit to the point where I was like leveling up my. I got to the level cap, and then you know how like those games have, not. It's like I don't know what you would call it, but it's like the prestige levels after the main progression path. I got like 15 or 16 levels in that, and I got a couple of exotics, and it was like a very lucrative play session with this guy, and he seems to just have wanted somebody to play with. And I bring this up because while these types of games are all fun and good solo, they really shine when you have at least one other person to play with. And just by happenstance, some guy hopped in my game. We started doing shit together, and then he sent me a friend request, and then he started he was playing with me a little bit today. So it was I've had more fun in the Division now than I ever did in the past 10 years. Yeah, so that definitely says something. So that I've been putting a lot of time into the Division 2. And Anthony, I finally did it, buddy. I beat Resident Evil 7. I beat it. I conquered my fears. I don't know the last time I played a horror game that was as scary as that. Shut up.
Probably
okay?
when you put down the remake of Resident Evil 2, that might have been the last time.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't play horror games. I've explained this ad nauseum, but goddamn it, I'm going to explain it again. I do not like that feeling of fucking dread in my gut around every possible corner. And that was basically how much time I put in so far. That was all 10 hours of my playthrough.
There you go. Did you beat Not a Hero too?
No, I started it. I have not beaten it yet. But it is, like you said, it's a lot more action oriented. It's definitely more my pace, and I'm actually really looking forward to jumping into Village. And then after I beat Village, I'm gonna finally start Requiem. So yeah, I've been on that Resident Evil kick. I finally fucking beat 7. That's a milestone for me, Anthony.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
I do not play those games.
So what did you think of it overall?
So I liked it. Well, I'm glad that it's over. Let me get that out of the way.
Okay.
I'm definitely glad that it's over. Overall, I thought it was a very different experience from generally what I play day to day. I mean, obviously, right?
Obviously.
I would probably give it, as far as the number score goes, I would give it like a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay.
And I got more invested into the story of the game the further I got into it, and then spoiler alert, I guess, if you still haven't played Resident Evil 7, this is your warning, stop listening now. I had a suspicion that the grandma that like kept them popping up throughout the Baker house, was this girl Ellie, or not Ellie, Evie, was this girl Evie that you learn about after... It's after you get to the big ship, right? That's when you first learn about her.
Yeah.
But what I'm kind of confused about is, was there a time jump, or was she just using her powers to appear as this elderly woman, and then her true form came out at like the very, very, very tail end of the game? Like, what happened there?
Okay, so...
Because I didn't read through any of the lore stuff that you find throughout the game. I just wanted to get through the fucking game.
I gotcha. That's the problem right there. You typically, if you want the answers to these questions, Daniel, you gotta read the memos. There's a memo that you find out. I think it's implied that it's written by Lucas. That he notes that at a certain point, Evelyn just ages really rapidly. Like there's just like something about her is unstable because the from the Baker household and that whole area being taken over to Resident Evil 7 proper, the main timeline you play through, I think it's no more than 3 years or something like that. It's like a short period of time.
There was this one brief moment in the game that I actually really, really like. I thought it was a really cool little, I guess, idea or whatever. Obviously, you kill Jack Baker, you kill Marguerite. You don't quite get was it Lucas? That was his name, or The son, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't quite get him. Maybe I guess they're saving that for Village. I have no idea. But there when Ethan gets captured by I guess by by Evelyn, and like that mold stuff takes him, and then you play through the section as Mia. When you switch perspectives back to Ethan, you're in like the hive mind, I guess, and Zoe and Jack Baker are sitting there, and Jack has like this whole monologue about how he's not a killer, his family aren't killers, he's really sorry, he wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for the fact that Evelyn was basically taking control of everybody. Even though like you obviously killed him hours prior to that, I guess the consciousness or whatever you would want to call it was in the zeitgeist that is Evelyn's powers or whatever. I don't know. I like that. I enjoyed that little tidbit. But I'm curious to know what the ending would have been if I gave Zoe the antidote instead of Mia. But I'm not playing through that game a second time. Or you could just tell me.
Well, the nice, I don't remember the specifics, but it is pretty much a bad end. Every Resident Evil after 3, they don't really dabble with complex good or bad endings. Any Resident Evil game after 3 that has multiple endings, it's very often not complex. It's just like a bad what if ending, and that's pretty much what that one is. I can't remember the specifics of what happened, but it's nothing drastic, and it's not like Resident Evil 1 or 3 that have a couple different what could happen, or ones that grade you on your performance or anything like that. It's different. And you don't really, I mean, the unfortunate thing is, aside from Not a Hero, which you're going to be playing, there is a bit more story that kind of elaborates on things with Zoe, but that's like in the paid DLC, unfortunately, so you won't end up playing that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to sinking my teeth into Village. I don't get the impression it's as horror centric as 7. But what?
Nothing.
Oh God, fuck.
I've told you this once. I'm going to tell you again. The bulk of Resident Evil Village is basically what you're going through with Not a Hero right now, minus like melee moves.
Okay.
Conformed to the layout and pacing of Resident Evil 4, both versions of Resident Evil 4, like that pacing. Okay. And I think I described it, because I did a video on this. I did like a should you play, and I think I described it as different parts of the game take like you could look at the game split up into 5 distinct chunks, and each of them try something different with their angles. Like there's one segment that's kind of closer to 7, there's one that's kind of closer to like the whole lake and surrounding areas in 4, there's one that's kind of like PT, and then the rest of the game is like just Resident Evil 4 as like a whole.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still looking forward to playing through Village. What? I snuck
something in there. I don't know if you caught it or not.
I guess not.
It's better that you don't. It'll be fun. You just let me know how that goes.
Well,
I'm very excited.
You said PT, so I'm assuming there's like another fucking nemesis mechanic. I hated that, by the way.
You the unfortunate thing, and this doesn't really apply to you, but like I can't like this, and I don't want to turn this into me ranting about something that you've been playing, but I cannot stand the RE Engine games. They have like this obsession with stalker characters, and it fucking drives me nuts.
I can't stand it. I can't stand the fucking mechanic.
7 has that, obviously. You just went through that. Resident Evil 2 had it, and it was completely unnecessary. It was so unnecessary, and people complained so much they removed it from the remake of 3, where it would have really made sense to have somebody as aggressive. 4 had like a small segment with it. Requiem dabbles with it in multiple ways, and and fucking Village has like 2 segments with that.
Great.
So,
all right,
we'll see what happens. I will say is that, for the most part, the worst of your horrors are behind you.
All right. Anyway, that is what I've been playing this week. I've
Yes.
been into a lot of different games this week.
Yes.
So yeah, we're
Yes.
20 minutes in already. Let's
Well,
hear
I'll
what you've been
cruise right
playing.
through it because my thing's going to lead right into it. First and foremost, I'm going to lead with a game you forgot to mention that you had also played. We played
Resident Evil 5.
Yes,
Yeah.
we played Resident Evil 5, and we played it modded. Daniel,
Yes.
we played a multiplayer
Man, what a trip
mod.
that was.
Yeah, what a hoot. Basically, for anyone who doesn't know, Resident Evil 5 has the Mercenaries mode, which you can play by yourself or with one other person in the Duos mode. Beyond that, they had Resident Evil 5 Versus DLC, which played around with like 4-player modes and stuff like that. But unfortunately, the 4-player modes are meant to be competitive, and the balancing's a little different. So what ended up happening is there are fans out there that basically used the lobby infrastructure of those Versus modes and then forced the game to like accept multiple players into the traditional mercenaries scenario. So it's a little wonky. I think it's like in early, like I noticed some weird glitches with like certain explosives and projectiles and enemy behaviors that like between the three of us who played, it was me, you, and Harrison. Obviously, like I'm the only one who's really gonna notice like the small like, hey, this enemy's not really acting right, and it's alleviated by the fact that it's like I'm playing mercenaries with 2 other people. That's so fun. So
It really works in No Mercy though.
Oh yeah, we went through all of the maps, and then we tried a little bit of No Mercy. And I think you guys kind of got a little overwhelmed. Harrison in particular seemed a little overwhelmed by it. I think it would be if we focused less on the time and like just picked characters we were comfortable with, we could probably get through all of the maps No Mercy. But the whole point is it's just a lot of fun. I hope in the future that Resident Evil, without ruining the formula that they just got back to, my opinions on some of the remakes aside, I hope that they are willing to dabble with side modes in a larger cooperative nature, but we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Other than that, there was recently an update to Marvel Rivals. They started season 7, I think it was.
All right.
So a couple balance changes, and they added another healer. And boy howdy, with that game, am I eating good, because they've just fucking every season they add a new healer to the point where the community is up in arms and angry about it. Like they add the strategist, which is the healer. There's just way too many of them, and I'm just like, keep them coming because I love healing. Just give me more healers to play around with. I love it. The character they added was White Fox. Her whole thing is like she does invulnerability periods of invulnerability and large radius shields, and her projectiles bounce off of walls and other enemies and shit. It's just a good time. I had a lot of fun.
Cool.
Now, the last thing I played, I kind of teased that I would be getting into this at a certain point. I think I told you about it. I'm just like, ooh, I was waiting for a new character in Street Fighter 6. And the second he came out, I basically played nothing but Street Fighter up until this point. It's just been Street Fighter non-fucking stop. In between, after basically the Rivals update came out, and then the Street Fighter character dropped, and I've just been playing nothing but that. It's Alex from Street Fighter 3, one of my favorite characters. I would probably top 5, maybe top 3 favorite characters, and more importantly, his play style, it suits me just fine. I don't know how much you know about how I like to play these games, Dan. I can do execution in these fighting games just fine. Faster execution heavy characters are not my thing. They never really are. There's a few instances where I can go like, hey, I'll do it or whatever, and I'll do reasonably well. And I've been challenging myself since Street Fighter 6 came out to try execution heavy characters, and I've gotten better, but like it's just still not my strength, Alex is none of that. Alex is just get in your face, land the right throw, do a lot of damage on counter hit, hurt people, make it a 3 to 4 interaction game, and I've just been playing a shit ton of that. I think I played 15 to 20 hours since he came out, I think.
Oh wow.
Something like that. Yeah, and it's been a lot of fun. The update proper is actually pretty good too. A lot of characters got more combo routes, juggling, and all that kind of stuff. It's been pretty good. And
nice.
that, it may seem a little flat, but that actually leads me into the first thing I want to talk about, Dan.
Okay.
And that is, I'm gonna give you a fighting game update because I know how much you like those.
Love them.
I can hear it. I can hear your voice. It's you dig it. I get it. So this character that I was waiting for, Alex, who I was just talking about, Street Fighter 3, beloved character, one of the most popular characters to come from the new generation, introduced way back when in Street Fighter 3. When there's a lot of kerfuffle about Street Fighter 3, people say it almost killed the franchise. People say it's the underrated underdog, the black sheep, whatever. I'm not here to talk about it. And with these new characters, whenever they get added, there's always an update. They tell you the story or whatnot. It's like, yeah, this character's, trying to bring their evil organization back. This character's doing that or the other. Alex's only bit of story is that now he's a heel in wrestling, and he got together with his childhood friend and adoptive sibling, Patricia. And that's his story, right?
Okay.
It's been a long-running story forever that Alex's parents died when he was young, and he was taken in by his father's good friend, Tom, and Tom's daughter, Patricia. Problem is, at the same time, they decided to reveal that Alex's mother is Tom's cousin, which makes two of them distant relatives, like second cousins. Mm-hmm. And the fighting game community immediately got up in arms about this. There's constant posts and videos like, we need to have a talk about Alex. And it's just like really stern, as if they discovered they're acting like the guy became a terrorist or murdered his family. And I'm just sitting here going, it seems harmless. Honestly, it's not a hugely uncommon trope. And more importantly, it's fiction, so I really don't give a fuck. And I see all these arguments online, so I decided to do a little digging today, Dan. We're going to get a little off topic here, and I decided to take a look at marriage statistics in the Western world. And I found out it is not that uncommon for second cousins to get married. There's what, really? 1.5 million a year. Because you gotta understand, it's not like you go out and you marry your fucking cousin. It's like you have a distant relative you don't even know. Apparently, this goes to go beyond that. Is you have people saying when people weren't as mobile, when they weren't flying all over the place and taking before the advent of technology, it was close to 60% of all marriages were like that or whatever. And I'm just at a certain point, I closed my laptop and I said, why the fuck am I looking this up to get into arguments online with people who are bitching about this stupid shit? They're all up in arms because it's just oh my god, they used to call each other brother and sister and now they're married. I'm but are they actually brother and sister? Is that a thing? Why are we even talking about this? It's a fucking fighting game. I want to play the fighting game. And I said, okay, enough of this. I closed my computer and I said, fuck it. The Street Fighter guys are going to be noisy. I'm going to sit online and I'm going to play my fighting games and that's going to be that, right? And then I said, clearly, the rest of the fighting game community isn't going to be having that much of a real one, right? There's never any drama in the fighting game community. And then I look and I see the Tekken guys. And as I've mentioned, Tekken has been going through a bit of a balancing reckoning right now. They recently had their Back to Basics patch, which was supposed to bring the game more in line with Legacy Tekken, and that's apparently not what it did at all. Everybody has new moves, everybody's up in arms, Tekken's dead again, Tom keeps telling me Tekken's dead, and it's being run from some fucking marketer. So I go, alright, fuck it, Tekken's gone, Tekken's a lost cause, what else is going on right now? So then I take a look at the Arxis guys with Guilty Gear.
Yeah. And
everybody's been waiting, Dan, because a year ago, they said, we are going to do Guilty Gear Strive 2.0. And everybody, they didn't elaborate on what that meant, that fucking meant, right? They just said it's going to be 2.0, it's going to be amazing. And they finally announced what 2.0 is going to be, Dan.
Well,
Guilty Gear 2.0 is they are getting rid of one mechanic that they added 2 years ago that everybody hates, and they're replacing it with another mechanic that's just a ripoff of something else. So basically, they went from ripping off Street Fighter's drive system where you can dash after moves and do combos, and they're replacing it with Tekken 8's heat system, which is you just press a button for a combo and it costs meter. And then they're also adding battle passes, and that's the update. That's the major we're going to save the game 2.0 update. And the creator...
I'm not a fighting game guy, but that doesn't seem like it's nearly enough.
It is so funny to me because, they're still in the process... 2-ish years ago, they said, guys, we hear what you're complaining about. The game's not as complex as it used to be. We're going to give every character a new special move. All those special moves aren't out yet. It's been 2 years. They can't add, one move to every character over the course of 2 years. And then, on top of that, they put out this battle pass, and it's okay, what's in it? It's oh, you're going to get extra colors. Oh, also, we're going to put story content behind the battle pass. I think that's the first time I've ever heard of a battle pass hiding story content behind a $6 price point every season. Am I insane? Has that ever happened before? Are there other battle passes that have story content behind them?
I don't So, like, battle passes, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Like, there's obviously other games that will charge for story content, but as a part of a battle pass, that honestly seems like a completely shameless cash grab.
Yes. So in this battle pass, aside with other things like, character colors and character accessories, they're also going to be putting what are essentially like visual novel like short stories behind
Hmm.
this paywall.
I
And
hate that.
yeah, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And so it's funny when this got announced. It was announced at a tournament called Arc Revo, which is all the Arc Sys games, right? The creator of the series, the guy that's been around since the beginning, one of my least favorite developers in the industry, Daisuke Ishiwatari. He goes to the stage at this fighting game tournament, and he uses that time there to shill his non-fighting game spin-off I told you about once. It was called Damon and Baby or some shit like that, and nobody's excited
Hmm.
or interested. There's crickets. I think I heard laughter in the crowd when he came up and started shilling this thing. But this man, he was grinning ear to ear. You know why?
Why?
There's a game that came out back on the 360 called Guilty Gear 2 Overture, and this was like his pride and joy. It's what he envisioned the franchise was always supposed to be, right? It is like a MOBA mixed with an action game, and it wasn't really that good. It was kind of awkward, but it's getting translated into 2 extra languages. He announced that and then got the fuck off the stage, left, and then the trailer for the fighting game shit played. And that so basically, well, all this is to say Street Fighter, Tekken, Guilty Gear, they're all there's some controversy across the board. Meanwhile, you have the rumors of a new Dead or Alive. People are arguing, oh, there should be fan service. There shouldn't be any fan service, and people are setting up extremes over there. You have Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves, sitting off to the side, slowly dying. There's no fucking player base because, as great as I think that game is, the visuals don't appeal to the casual crowd. The game's too hard for the casual crowd. They keep shilling celebrities and all this DJ music that nobody really cares about. So they're in a tough spot right now. This niche fighting game called Undernight that I like a lot. They announced one new character that's going to come out at some point this year. That's all they got. It's just a fucking disaster, and it highlights something. Fighting game players have this massive case of grass is greener, I guess, syndrome, or whatever you want to call it, right? Because whenever one of these games does poorly, you'll have somebody that plays a different game say, you should play other game, and the guys that are playing the game that they don't like will say, like, oh, well, I would never play that. And it's just, it factors into this thing I've been teasing for months and months, where it's like tribes and tribalism. Nobody wants to try anything new, and all the games suck now, and it's kind of retarded. There's this mentality that everybody just likes to perpetually bitch about the games instead of play something different, or like play something new, or just not play altogether. It's just everybody's playing games they fucking hate, and the games are getting worse, and everybody's just pointing fingers saying, you should play something else. No, you should play something else. Meanwhile, everybody should just stop playing, just walk away. It's like drug addiction. And I guess that's all I have to say about the fighting game. Just give you a little update. It's a shit show. It's a shit show, Dan.
Well,
Yeah.
every time you talk about this, it's always a new level of like, okay, how bad is this going to be? And
Yeah.
every time it's just,
It's
okay,
always
it's pretty
something.
fucking bad.
It's either something going on in the community where like it's fandom mentality and tribalism, or somebody's getting raped, or there's some orgy going on, or somebody's
Literally.
or somebody's spiking the drinks, or the developers are finding more ways to nickel and dime with 4 character years and battle passes and no quality control, AI in the trailers. It's a shit show, and I just want it to crash and burn.
Mm, yeah,
Um,
well, maybe one day.
Maybe one day. So, my fighting game rant out of the way, Dan, before you can lead us into the news proper, we have a write-in this week.
Yes, give it to me.
Just, I'll give you, this is like your little palate cleanser after hearing me rant and ramble about
Please
fighting
and
games.
thank you.
So, the question is, do you believe we are anywhere near the end of this, for lack of a better word, period of disearnest writing? Or are we doomed to many more years of, quote, did I just move that with my mind?
Uh,
I guess he's trying to say, like, MCU level quips.
that's another really good question, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it ultimately depends on the game, and then you can further split that by depends on what studio is working on it, because it's obvious in today's day and age that depending on what game you're following and what studio is developing it, the political agenda, or even, I guess, the caliber of the writing itself is going to vary vastly.
Hmm.
Uh, so I am pretty uncomfortable saying, giving a definitive answer to that. However, uh, I think it all depends on what you're playing, to be honest.
Mm.
I don't really have a really good, straightforward answer to that one. I think we are still yet to see like copious amounts of slop in the years to come,
Mm.
but at the same time, we'll still get, well, depending on what you follow, you'll still eat well. Uh,
Yeah.
the last like very story-heavy game that I've played was, well, actually, it's probably Resident Evil 7. Uh, but before that, let's check. Let's find out. I'm not counting Resident Evil 5 because I've played through that game countless times over
Hmm.
the years. Battlefield 6, that campaign was a joke. You also don't buy Battlefield for the campaign, so that's out. Let's see, going back even further. It's I guess maybe Space Marine, but Space Marine 2, the campaign of that game, it was not stellar, and that kind of surprised me too at the time because Warhammer, uh, whether Age of Sigmar or 40K, Warhammer has a reputation of having like basically an endless well of lore, and Games Workshop is like hyper vigilant on what companies get to work on the property and who's going to get the lore accurate stuff right and who's going to get it wrong. So, I mean,
I
but the writing wasn't like anything crazy in Space Marine 2. Like there wasn't any woke bullshit. The worst part about
I
that game was, sorry,
no,
let me just finish the thought.
yeah, yeah.
The worst part about the Space Marine 2 game was that at the end of the campaign, you go into the warp as Titus and his two teammates, and like if you know anything about 40K, like if you go into the warp, even if you are an Astartes, like you're fucking dead. Like there's no way around that.
Mm.
If you're not like an ultra powerful psyker, like basically the fucking Emperor, who is bound to the throne anyway, you're not surviving that. So I don't even know if I would consider that, but yeah, it's a good question. Ghost
Mm.
of Tsushima. That's probably the last story-heavy game that I've played, uh,
Mm.
and I don't think the writing was bad, but it was just a generic revenge story. Like I wasn't
Mm.
really playing through it for the story. I was playing through it to be a samurai and to explore the open world and
Mm.
get better abilities and technique and blah blah blah. So yeah, I don't really have a great answer for that one.
Okay. Well, the couple things before I get to mine is first I will say, just because you've brought up Games Workshop and 40K as like an example in the past, we've talked about the writing and whatnot, and aside from seeing my own kind of rubbernecking on some online arguments, I've had a few people come up to me and say kind of the opposite, where like because of how vast 40K is as a brand, there are examples of not necessarily disastrous world-breaking lore, but like there are a handful of times where like activism-driven writers have overstepped and done things that wouldn't necessarily align. Like you can get away with it because it doesn't break the universe lore, right? But there are things out there that don't necessarily reflect like an ironclad protection of their lore and stuff like that.
Well, that's why the whole Warhammer topic is so interesting because, singling out Space Marine 2 in particular, the the Ultramarines are like the poster boys of that property right now, and they have been for
Mhm.
quite some time. And it's just puzzling to me how Games Workshop let some of the writing fly in the actual campaign, even
Mhm.
though the majority of the gameplay in Space Marine 2 is not revolving around the campaign. So, I don't know.
Okay. So as far as my take on the answer to that question, it is a bit murky, as you say. It's kind of hard to judge, really. I do think that it's not like an overnight thing in either case. Like just the nature of like, because we're not even talking about like the industry. You know, we're talking about the medium having these kind of issues and activists and cultural vandals and stuff. That it's deep seated, and you know, just not even like the people who are like actively trying to do you wrong. It's just the caliber of writer on average has kind of declined. It's just the nature of things ebb and flow. We're not in that golden age. We haven't been for a while. I think that we're in the process of slowing, and you know, just as like, you know, on an average where you'll see the quality of writing go up, but also I do think, you know, to what you said is like there's just so many things out there, you just got to know where to look, where you have to stumble upon it. Like, you know, for everything like a Dustborn or Dragon Age Veilguard or anything, for every 10 of those is like one story of varying scale that you can find and enjoy, you know. I look at it this way. Like, I bring up Expedition 33 because some people like to fillet that game a bit more, and don't get me wrong, I love it, but people like to talk about it's like one of the best stories ever written. I wouldn't go that far. However, it is the type of writing you would expect from those better times, you know, where it's not perfect, but it's good, and you can argue about like some of the individual elements, but that's the point, is like whether it's a good or a bad or an average story, you know, in earnest, you should be talking about them, whether you have personal grievances with them or not. The one caveat to all this that I would say, and it's kind of a blind spot for you, is the West versus the East. Because I've said for a while, you've probably heard me use this or bring this up once or twice, but typically speaking, if we look at Japan, as far as, you know, one of their biggest exports is their media, and one of that obviously is games. They typically lag behind the United States culturally while adapting the culture of the United States by about 5 to 10 years, I would say. And it's not necessarily a given, but the chances are that they're going to start dealing with a lot of the writing headaches and mistakes that we've been already dealing with, and you're going to see that in that media, between certain talents aging out, certain talents having changes of heart, you know, some of them being bought out, localizers getting involved, because there's that whole thing of like Western writers who have these problems are now going to Eastern writers and saying, well, you got to change this, that, and the other, and it's done at the source now. There's a lot of examples like that. Like, you know, one of my biggest examples is Guilty Gear. That story's just been butchered back and forth. There's a lot of Nintendo properties. Fire Emblem in particular has a lot of these issues. And basically what I'm saying is as we slow and then recover, you're going to notice certain safe havens finally hit where we're at, and like that's like the only thing. It's like they'll come around too, but there's a lot of wheels in motion going on there, like where they're going to be hit with their own reckoning, or it's going to be harder for people over there to necessarily weather the storm, and they're going to have more restrictions, external influence, cultural activists, you know, the same shit that we've been dealing with for a while. So that's my one caveat. I think things are trending upwards. I think there's going to be a few defining moments in the next couple of years where like we see if it holds, or if we still have, I mean, everything's a fight. I've mentioned to you before where it's like there are just certain things we're going to be fighting till the day we die. You know, it's good versus evil essentially. But the whole point is like we want the scales to kind of rebalance or be tilted in our favor. And the next couple of years are going to be kind of a good idea as to whether or not, you know, we're going to have to do more pushing, or if we're just going to slowly tilt the other way again, you know? The only last comment I will make on this, and then we'll move on to the other stuff proper, is that one of the biggest things we talked about 98 episodes ago, back on our first episode, we talked about, you know, things that were already known about in the industry but were coming to light, about things like consultation companies and stuff like that. And it also ties into just corporate thinking and corporate overreach within you know, creative structure. And I think both of those things are under heavy scrutiny right now. I think that, you know, there's entire groups dedicated to tracking down if they outsource to these writing groups that like to threaten and berate people, you know, so there's a spotlight on them like there wasn't before. And then you have failures like Veilguard, Assassin's Creed Shadows, you know, smaller indie projects, again, like Dustborn and Retooled and all these other smaller games that nobody knows or gives a shit about. And you even have other like major brands that, you know, if you tried to argue about it then, you know, you would get in internet fights and they'd call you a weirdo or the racist or, you know, sexist or something. But like brands that have been damaged by these writing things like Final Fantasy, Borderlands, you know, stuff like that. It's what I'm rambling about is these things are no longer in the shadows. A lot of this comes to light, and that helps with eliminating or at least pointing to a lot of the bad actors. So it's in flux. To what Dan said, it's going to be, you know, there's a lot of like pockets where you can find and, you know, not have to worry about these things. But I think ultimately we're going to be trending in a good direction. It's just a matter of, does it start now or does it start a couple of years from now, you know?
Yeah, I think both paths are moving forward simultaneously. I think that, you know, depending on what game you're looking for, you can find something that is of quality pretty much wherever, but at the same time, there will always be that AAA slop that we have been getting nonstop for like the past 10 years at this point.
Yeah.
So
they are failing more than ever.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that is true. That is very true. All right, well, good question, as per usual. Damn, keep them coming. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get on to the news proper. Not too much this week. There's an okay
Thank
amount.
God, because we just talked through the whole thing.
Well, you posted something. I don't know what the source of this was. Or WCCF Tech. That's where it came from. And it reads as follows: Memory suppliers are now worried the demand boom won't last too long and are already rethinking expansion plans. To which I responded, "Good, fuck 'em," all caps. This is good. I mean, obviously, I didn't read the article. You just posted a screenshot, but seems as though they were just way too quick on the draw, and they're, you know, all this memory that they're making is just too much. Apparently, I mean, please enlighten me if I'm getting this wrong, but just gleaning off of that one tidbit. That's what it sounds like.
The gist of this what to take away from this is basically that now that like the rush is over, like it turns out that the environment isn't necessarily as I guess fruitful as some of these suppliers was going to hope. Like a lot of everybody fired on all cylinders and jumped the gun, and now it's turning out that like between the mass production, the everybody buying everything up, and removing themselves from consumer marketplaces, it turns out that like well, this was actually just a lot of this was a lot of bluster and build up that necessarily wouldn't lead to anything. This is also riding on the back of, you know, reports from, you know, analysts with the government and analysts just in the market of just general like the United States markets, is that AI has apparently added no like distinct revenue or profit, like zero to the economy.
Sometimes negative.
Like, yeah,
in some cases negative.
In some cases negative. It's basically like everybody's saying it's a bubble. I don't know if it's going to lead to just one nasty pop or if like stories like this are going to lead to them like kind of easing off certain things, because like at a certain point all these big companies are going to realize, well, we didn't get here in time, we're not going to get anything from this, and things kind of wean out. We'll see what happens. Honestly, I haven't seen enough of the ramifications throughout the market. Obviously, I showed you that one little, you know, thing where it's just like they may have overshot it, but there's a lot of moving parts. But the general rule is like this is the first like real inclination from a company and producer themselves that says that, hey, like maybe we didn't need to do this, you know?
Yeah, and you know what? That's really, really good news for the rest of us mortals. I mean, look, I've talked about this, you know, I'm going to use that word again ad nauseum, for weeks on end at this point. It bothers me on like a very core level that this shit is going on, and just as everyday people, you and I have basically absolutely no way to control any of it. I happened to get my laptop RAM expansion like just in the nick of time, and now there's no hope for me to get desktop RAM at this point, at least not right now. You know, hopefully it'll be within the next year or so that I can start making upgrades to my desktop at home. But this is definitely good news for your average consumer. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on stuff like this. Okay, moving on. From Kotaku, the headline reads, Judge orders Subnautica 2 studio CEO reinstated amidst lawsuit. Did you hear about this?
I heard about it, but I didn't read too much into it. I just know that it's essentially not a conclusion, but like a turnover from that really messy ousting from, what does it feel like, a year ago at this point? Or was it less than that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was a really messy legal battle between the CEO and Grafton, I think. They're the investors behind Subnautica 2. So I'm just browsing the article right now. Judgment is entered in favor of Fortis, who is the CEO, which represents the Unknown Worlds founders on its Phase 1 claims. Will for the decision handed down in Delaware Chancey Court, March 16. Crafton breached the EPA by terminating the key employees without valid cause and by improperly seizing operational control of Unknown Worlds. So it was a little bit too much of a hostile takeover, and the court were like, no, fuck you, put him back in charge. So basically what I'm getting out of this is that the good guys actually won in this scenario. Because people love Subnautica, and Subnautica 2 is a very hyped title for the audience that actually enjoy it. So I don't know, it's nice to see a game developer that was done wrong, like, that wrong was written. So that's always a good thing. Nothing too huge, but something that was worth mentioning, I'll say. Moving on from there, Capcom has officially confirmed that Requiem was the fastest-selling game in franchise history. It's probably not the best-selling game. Resident Evil 4 most likely has that crown, but it's the fastest, at least so far. So that's cool.
I think Resident Evil 5 might have more than Resident Evil 4. I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while since I've looked at. Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at their platinum titles list. But it's regardless of like the overall sales, it is the fastest selling by a pretty distinct margin.
Yeah. So I mean, something else to keep our eye on. I mean, we all know that Requiem is selling phenomenally because it's a good Resident Evil game, but
trust me, I do know that it's been selling wonderfully because there's been a lot of arguments online ever since it, and I've kept you abreast of that, where it's just like, it actually ties into what I had written later in the news channel and the topic channel, where I said something, or what did I say? I said like we haven't considered disabled gamers or something like that. So do you know why I wrote that?
I guess not. Okay,
so believe it or not, it does come down to all of the recent Resident Evil discussion. Let me just lead with this. My dear friend Daniel, if I asked you, why don't you play the original Resident Evil games, like the tank control ones, how would you respond to that?
Why don't I?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to put it crudely, I have other things that I want to play instead. I don't really have any interest in playing through those games. Okay. That's pretty much it.
I'd say that is a fair response. Now, I noticed that when you gave me that answer, you didn't accuse me of gatekeeping. You didn't tell me that, well, I wouldn't know anything about Resident Evil, and I'm not really a fan, so I shouldn't be telling you what to play anyway. And you wouldn't follow up with that, like, I'm being ableist or anything like that, right? You would just say, like, it's not for you. You don't have the time.
I don't
whatever.
Understand where that even comes into play.
Exactly what I was thinking when I saw this. Apparently, if you tell people to go, if and I'll say, and not just people, because, like, I'm not going to hold you down and force you to play the tank control games yet. But if I, like...
you got lucky with 7, dude. Okay, let me just...
I shouldn't even say tank controls. I should just say the classics, because tank control fixed camera. You've played plenty of fixed camera. I'm sorry, not fixed camera. You've played plenty of tank control Resident Evils. You just don't think about it because they're Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 4. But the whole point is, like, that's like a normal conversation to have between two people. You don't immediately like jump on me and say like, "Hey, asshole, you were never a fan. I'm a fan to begin with, and you asking me to go back." That you're basically ableist by saying that, because that's basically what's been playing out online, where people's just like, everybody's accusing like, "You're not a fan. No, you're not a fan. No, you're not a fan." And the stupid endpoint of this argument is that people like me, who have played all the games and like all the games, and I would say it's safe to say I'm a fan of the games at this point. You know, like I've been playing the game since 2000, a little later. You know, I wasn't there at the very first release. I was too young for that. But you know, I torrented Resident Evil 3 the only way I knew how, with LimeWire back in the day, the little downloading thing. I downloaded Resident Evil 3. I loved it. Immediately had my my parents go out and buy me Remake, Zero, the GameCube ports of 2 and 3, and then I played the original one on the PC. You know, I've been there, been around the block. I just, like, me saying, you know, as a Resident Evil fan to somebody else online who claims to be a Resident Evil fan, to go play the original games, it doesn't seem that controversial. But the end point of the argument has turned into, you just don't like poor and disabled people, because apparently it's that difficult to get the old games. Like, they're just too expensive, and like they're not like, if you're crippled, you can't play them or something. And I don't want to be that guy who rushes to like say like, "Oh, you can just go to this website and do this and that." But emulation and downloading ROMs has gotten to the point where you can go to some of these websites and it will boot up an emulator in the web page for you to play.
Oh,
like,
really?
That's how easy.
The original Resident Evil, I mean, this says 2015, so I don't know if it's like a remake or something, or like a remaster.
That's the remaster of the remake that came out in 2002. The original game came out in 1996.
Well, it's $5 right now on Steam. Like, don't tell me that it's inaccessible.
Well, you would need to check to see how much they are, because as we discussed last week, Capcom doesn't see the originals as worth playing either, so they're only available on GOG or like older platforms. But the whole point is like, that's you know, all this fandom and fan culture bullshit has reached a ridiculous point where it's like, if somebody who, like, I don't, what pisses me off about this, I've definitely mentioned it before, is I don't like going around saying, "Well, I'm a fan, so I have authority." That's retarded. That's stupid. I should never need to vocally pronounce or just vocally shout my like intense love for something all the time before a conversation happens. But I'm forced to, and I'm forced to like confront other people, because they're telling me that, like, people online will go like, "Well, I started with Resident Evil Village and I know more about the series and where the series should go more than you," and all this kind of, it's just stupid. And if I tell people who claim to be fans of this franchise to, you know, play the original games, or at least try them, I'm told I'm ableist because apparently cripples can't play video games or something. Like, I don't get it. Like, and by cripples, I mean like people who have some kind of mental fibromyalgia shit going on, because they're definitely not really cripples. You know, like I've been around the block. I've seen people play fighting games with their fucking face because they don't have like their hands don't work. I've seen people play Dark Souls blindfolded. You know, I've seen speedrunners. A normal human being can pick up the original 3 to 4 Resident Evil games and play them. It's not controversial to say that. And I guess this is one of the consequences of Requiem being the fastest selling. Is the faster a game sells, the quicker and dumber the online arguments become. So.
Oh yeah, they get pretty quick and they get pretty dumb.
Pretty dumb.
So yeah, Resident Evil Requiem, fastest selling.
Yeah, that's the takeaway
game. All right, so the next thing that we got on the docket is about FBC Firebreak from the makers of Control. So interestingly enough, they are not shutting the game down. They made the final content update for it though, and they also included a Friends Pass. So if you own the game, whether it's on Game Pass or otherwise, you can get a friend to download it and play with you for completely free. But the game is not shutting down. It's just going to be a lot more accessible, I suppose. But it's going to be, you know, wherever they leave it with this final content update, it's called Open House, then that's where that game will live forevermore until, I guess, Remedy finally decides to pull the plug on the servers. I honestly would have put money on the fact that they would have just killed it and been done with it, but Guess not. Interesting.
I mean, good for them on keeping it on life support, so to speak. Because like I honestly like I think when we played it, we talked about we basically said we don't know who it's really for. You know,
Yeah.
it seems confused in how it plays. It's not the worst game you've ever played. It's just it's a little lacking in some areas and it's a little confused. And I mean, I'll be completely honest. I know that these server costs are not nearly as high as a lot of people like to make them out to be. So I'm glad that Remedy basically said, okay, we're going to update this and do this, because that leaves the door open for who knows what down the line. But at the very least, the small audience they've cultivated isn't going to have the door shut in their face just because this experimental title didn't do as well as they'd expect, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just an interesting turn of events. It's been a world where, games don't perform to, insert expectation here. They just get shut down without a second thought. It's nice to see that Remedy is not going down that path. So that was a thing that happened. After that, Sony is issuing automatic refunds for additional content that was purchased in Highguard. I don't really know what else to say from there, so I'm just going to move on. In much more exciting news, we finally got like actual gameplay of Exodus, the pretty close spiritual successor to Mass Effect, from the same writer as the original trilogy and a lot of the same devs. So it was only like a minute and a half, maybe it was 2 minutes, I could be wrong, but it was what, 25 seconds, 30 seconds of like actual combat, and then your character, what was the character's name? June, I think.
So.
Him or her, like just like walking around and kind of just showing the different areas that you can explore. But in the brief 30-ish seconds of combat that we saw, dude, it looks very Mass Effect, but in a good way. Like, I'm not saying that negatively at all. It looks very Mass Effect-y. And again, just the fact that Drew Kapershin is writing this story, I'm trying to rein in my expectations, but they're pretty up there already, and I really hope I'm not disappointed. But it doesn't look like it's ripping off Mass Effect in any regard, because a lot of games still use that combat system, especially after Mass Effect 2 got it so right the first time. But it just looks like a much prettier, much smoother version of Mass Effect 3. I want to see more. That's the only other thing that I could say about it. They left me wanting more, which is
that's a good hook.
Again, yes, good thing. They don't have a release date. I just know that it's due out at some point in 2026. It's probably going to be around holiday time, if I had to guess. So we still have a good amount of time to wait. But with a game like this that has a lot of developers that worked on one of my favorite games of all time. No, Mass Effect 2 is my favorite game of all time, with a lot of developers that worked on my favorite game of all time. Take as much time as you need, take your time with it. I got plenty to play in the meantime. So, yeah. I don't know if you have any thoughts, but that was my initial takeaway.
It's very much, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, just dialed back a little bit on the attention scale, I would say. I will say, watching that, I did get Mass Effect vibes. A lot of the movement kind of reminded me a lot of Andromeda as far as gameplay is concerned.
Yeah.
And, here's the thing. Like, there's a lot to say about Mass Effect Andromeda. We've said it before. But the thing that I would say was kind of the least contentious was probably the gameplay. Moved away from some of the cover. Like, it played fine, is like the simplest way I can put that without making direct comparisons and turning this into an hour-long discussion.
The multiplayer for Andromeda is still alive. I actually played a match like a few months ago.
I forgot there was even multiplayer in Andromeda.
Yeah, it was that horde mode thing. There's only 519 people in game right now, but that's more. So actually, hold on a second. Let's run a little experiment. So there's 519 people in game on Steam on Mass Effect Andromeda. 519. So I honestly thought for sure that Killing Floor 3 was going to have less people. Killing Floor 3 has 574. Not by it's not not more by a whole lot, but it's still more. But just the fact that Andromeda has a comparable player count to Killing Floor 3 is fucking crazy. So Exodus is looking good, looks promising. My biggest concern with Exodus going forward, honestly, like they can get the gameplay fine, right? Like I don't think it's difficult for this group of devs to really make the gameplay fun and engaging and have it be satisfying. I don't think that's the real challenge here. At least for Exodus in particular. Now I know it's based off of a book. I have not read it yet. I do plan on getting around to it whenever that might happen. But as far as it being in the medium of video games, I really, really, really am hoping that like going back to that writing question from earlier, I really hope that the writing is top notch because the whole Mass Effect trilogy until Andromeda was great. Maybe I'm not going to argue semantics with the Mass Effect 3 ending, but every little thing from Mass Effect 1 to the ending of 3, I loved. I don't care about the controversy of how the franchise ended, but since it's coming from the same writer, I am really hoping that the writing is on point because I am a total sucker for a space opera.
We should definitely do like a conversation just about Mass Effect's ending one day because I have a lot of things to say about it, and I think that would make for an interesting discussion.
Yeah, definitely. I'm down for that.
But no, I'm with you in the same boat. I love the Mass Effect trilogy, and I would like, continuation aside, conversations about the complications there. I would like something like that because I feel like that void hasn't really been filled.
Absolutely
since,
not. Yeah. So, yeah, the biggest thing for me for Exodus is going to be the writing overall. That and probably how the companions are in the game, and I guess they can kind of fall into the same bucket as the writing, but still. So anyway, yeah, we got Mass Effect. We got Exodus gameplay, and I really want to see more. So cool. Moving on from there, what else we got here? You put up like a text graphic about Capcom and what is it, DLSS 5? Oh God, I don't even know if we have the time to get into DLSS 5.
Yeah. Do you want to save that, or do you want?
No, yeah. Let's save that because we just do not have the time for that.
That's perfectly
but
fine.
That's going to be an interesting discussion next week.
Sure.
All right, let's see what else we got. So that Counter-Strike update came out of left field, dude. So you put this up. Counter-Strike apparently shadow dropped an insane balance patch that changes how reloading works. So instead of the way that they've always done it, where you reload and it takes the ammo straight out of the reserves, it basically functions as the Helldiver's reload system, where whenever you drop the mag that's in the gun, you lose whatever ammo was remaining in that magazine, and then you just lose it. And the game is like really old at this point, so I wonder why that design choice was made. Very, very interesting, because the game is so lucrative as is. It's constantly it's the #1 game on Steam pretty much all the time.
It's had a pretty consistent player count, I should say, not player base because people come and go, but a player count for 30 years. How old is the original Counter-Strike?
The original Counter-Strike? Oh god,
25-ish years maybe.
Counter-Strike 1, I guess.
Yeah.
How about just 1999?
Okay, so I was pretty close, almost 30 years. And my reaction is that is a massive change to just throw at this long-running game because, my understanding is this doesn't affect classic Counter-Strike, and it doesn't affect Counter-Strike Source, whatever version they stopped updating at. Was it 1.6 or something like that?
I have no idea.
Yeah, but my understanding, just as somebody who hasn't really played, the player base shifted. There's obviously a lot of purists that'll play the original version. That's probably the version I would play if I was inclined to go play it, if I could find the people to play it. I don't know what the player base is for the older versions of the Counter-Strike games, but this version, Counter-Strike 2, is the game that everybody's playing. That is an updated version of the Counter-Strike Global Offensive Client, which was the game that's been the main client for however many years. And it's weird, this change of changing how reserve ammo and the full magazines and how all that works, that seems like a change you would expect from a sequel, but the problem is you took the main client and then just randomly dropped this. I also think that for a game like Counter-Strike, I'm almost surprised that it wasn't like that originally, you know? Uh I don't know. I feel like that, like if you had told me about Counter-Strike back when I heard about it however many years ago, like, oh, that's how ammo works, I would have believed you because that just seems like the kind of
Well, I mean, that's how it
ammo.
would work, in real life
Well,
if
of
you
course,
want to, make that
but
comparison.
like I feel like Counter Strike as a formula and as I've seen the game play does, like, it makes sense for that. But it's like you're basically throwing like you're essentially
It's a
throwing
completely different design change from a game,
yeah
but its core gameplay value.
yeah.
It's
And my
wild.
my understanding is they also changed different ammo values and magazine sizes across the board to kind of accommodate this change. But people are like up in arms because obviously, like, you're essentially dumpstering 27 years of muscle memory for some people, and you're turning balance on its head because now, because of between the buffs and the nerfs and the change to the reload, like, guns are now all over the fucking place. Like, oh, the
Yeah.
M4 is better, the AWP is worse, the SIG is worse, the FAMAS is better, and it's just like it's a nice shakeup on paper, but like to a client, to a client that you've essentially been like preserving, and like there's been so many like delicate changes to the gameplay stuff, like leaving aside like the marketplace stuff because that's like a whole other beast, but like how the game plays
Yeah.
and handles has been delicately like handled for years. And Counter-Strike
Yeah,
2,
now they just took a fucking club to it.
yeah, it's, I don't know, it seems like a bit much. I'm curious to see because when Valve typically makes these decisions, I don't think they're really prone to backing down on them. Like, that's like one of the
Nah.
downsides. Like, when they make a decision, they tend to stick with it,
Yeah.
So it'll be curious to see. And obviously, I don't think the player count has changed all that much.
No,
I do think just
absolutely not.
throughout all the years, they're kind of afforded, like, even if it was just a bad change overall with no subjectivity to it, I think they'd just be they get a freebie anyway, considering how revered the game is and how it's held up over the years. But yeah, that was a crazy out of nowhere change, blindsided a lot of people.
Yeah, pretty nuts. All right, let's see. I think the last thing that we have to talk about today
Hmm.
is this whole Crimson Desert situation going on. Have you
Yeah,
been keeping up with this at all? Have you heard anything about it?
I've heard a lot of the reception, and I understand a decent amount of its development, but I haven't, like, the game hasn't piqued my interest. Like, I've looked at it and I'm saying,
Yeah,
oh, that's kind of like, oh, it's I'm not
yeah,
hating on
neither.
it. It's just it's not grabbing me.
So a buddy of mine is really into these types of games,
Hmm.
and he had it pre-ordered, and then he canceled the pre-order because he saw the different things that the reviews were saying, and then he was like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna buy it and play it." And then, so he re-pre-ordered it and started playing it,
Hmm.
um, and then he sent me something that was it was like a one of those Word JPEGs about a developer that used to work on it that was talking about the development cycle that it went through,
Hmm.
and it was another one of those examples of like hyper toxic positivity.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and so I this game felt like there was something off about it from the moment I fucking saw it.
Hmm.
And I was never really able to put my finger on it. And I'm still kind of not, but the best way that I could sum it up, at least in my own, like through my eyes, is that Crimson Desert is a game that seems unreasonably gigantic for the sake of being unreasonably gigantic.
Hmm.
And I guess I could see how some people might find that appealing, but to me, like, that's a major turnoff. Like, I just don't have any interest in jumping into something like that.
Hmm.
Um, and then, that is compounded by the fact that there's basically no tutorials in the game. The
Hmm.
inventory system is borderline non-existent. I don't think there's many fast travel things in the game, if at all. I could be wrong about that, but I
Hmm.
think that was like a point of contention.
Hmm.
And then on top of all that, you hear from this ex-dev uh, that he described the hierarchy at Pearl Abyss as an upside down pyramid. There were more leaders than there were like rank
Hmm.
and file employees, and then all the quote unquote leaders would think that each other's ideas were the greatest thing since fucking sliced bread, and no one ever stopped to say, hey, I don't think this is a good design choice, or this shouldn't be in the game, or whatever, however you want to word it. And then we end up getting a game like it is right now. And like the review scores seem to be kind of all over the place from what I've been seeing. I've seen 5s, I've seen 8s, I've seen 7. Like it's a very wide range of review scores for Crimson Desert. The one positive, like overall, that I have seen is the voice acting, which is kind of weird, but okay. But like the game seems to be suffering from the fact that they have just shoehorned copious amounts of systems into one game and have not really thought through how it's supposed to work in the long term. And that goes back to me saying just 5 minutes ago, the game seems like it's unbelievably gigantic for the sole sake of it, and like that's not appealing to me.
So the one thing I'll say about that, because you said it a few times now, is I it's a fair way to look at it. My understanding is that this game was retrofitted from a nearly canceled MMO design, and that's why it's so large.
Pearl Abyss came from the same people who made Black Desert. And I don't know if like they took the dev kit from that game to make Crimson Desert, or they were like working on another MMO and decided to just pivot and make a single player game. But I mean, all their chops are in MMOs and like big giant open worlds. But I don't know. The whole game it seemed like it was on the edge of vaporware right up until release.
See, that's a pretty good way to put it. I was very skeptical about this because when I saw it, I looked at it and I almost got, and I don't want to do a disservice to this because this is one of my favorite games ever, I almost got Dragon's Dogma vibes from it.
Okay.
Just from the way it moved and the way it looked like it moved. And every time it came up in conversation, all that was brought up about it is like, it's massive. If you think you can do something, if there's a strategy out there that you think you can do it, you can do it. It's open-ended. It's got so much choice, this, that, and the other. Like, and I immediately get skeptical for two reasons. Number one, that level of choice being the one selling point that is consistent from when everybody hears about this game up until release. I always have doubts at developers being able to deliver on meaningful choices, especially when it comes to universal gameplay choices. I think that's I think that a lot of developers pursue that end goal because of how Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom were received. And more importantly, even if you pull it off, like, it's almost like what we talked about with AI in games. Like, there's only so much in the way of I guess blank slate gameplay that I can tolerate. Like, I don't want, like, I like a good sandbox, right? When it's done right, open world sandbox, that kind of thing. I don't want the choice and the spread of capabilities to be so wide that, like, it basically, when I do decide to like hunker down into one portion of the game, it doesn't feel like shallow, like, what is it? It's like, wide as an ocean, shallow as a puddle, or something like that. What's the saying? Like, that's
a mile wide and an inch deep, something
like that. Yeah. And like, that's the vibe I was getting from this. Like, it's almost like there's Starfield. A certain and this isn't shade at him, because like everybody has different approaches, but it's almost like it's the kind of game I would expect Joe to play around with, because we've talked ad nauseum with him about like AI in games, where it's just like, oh, I can talk to this guy and he'll give me like never-ending answers, and I'm just like, that doesn't really appeal to me in that particular framework, or also in like, the sandbox area, because it's like, I can do whatever I want in Gmod also, I can just load up a map and I can just screw around in there, but it's like, at the end of the day, I need a game at the bottom of it, and I don't think Crimson Desert has that, as far as I can tell. It really just seems like there's a lot of shallow hooks in the story,
like it's like enormous for the sake of being enormous. Like, there's no depth there. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I'm okay with being wrong.
I don't necessarily think it's for the sake of it. I just think it's happenstance of the development, which is part of what you mentioned and part of what I mentioned, being, number one, this is supposed to be an MMO, and number two, you have all those people at the top saying, this idea sounds great, this idea sounds great. It sounds like there's a lot of ideas and not a lot of follow-through. is basically
Yeah.
what it feels like to me. And my understanding is that, like, I don't know, there's it's another one of those cultural things where you have, like, games journalists are saying, well, this is the worst thing ever, and now because games journalists are saying this, you have other people saying, well, clearly it's got to be good if they hate it. And I don't play that. It looks to me like it's a very niche 7. That's what it looks like. Maybe even a little lower than that. Where like there will be people who will probably get a lot out of, you know, the widespread of objectives and things and how you can complete them. Like, you know, it's entertaining to me that you can, like, pull a tree back and fling yourself into the air like it's a fucking Bollywood film or whatever. And, like, there's nothing like that. I need more personally, and I'm not going to hate on people that enjoy it, but, like, the things that I would critique heavily, things like story, presentation, music, it doesn't seem to have those elements, like the dressings that make me say, like, oh, it's a well put together product. It's just not for me. It just doesn't seem like, seems like below average. That's the feeling I get from it.
Yeah, and, like, I don't want to seem like I'm throwing rocks from a glass house here, but I have no plans in playing Crimson Desert. I'm not going to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't want to. I'm not conflicted.
It's not, you're not invested in it, and
Yeah,
it's better.
yeah,
It's better to, like, see it in passing and wonder what's going on than it is to just latch onto something and love it or hate it out of spite. That doesn't make sense to me, and you're not that
Yeah.
kind of guy either. So it's you're kind of shrugging your shoulders, which is fine. If it's not for you, it's not for me. What are we going to say, really? I find the development stuff and, like, the end result of the gameplay spread curious, but I don't find it particularly investment worthy of my time, I guess. Yeah, I could say. I'm sure there are some
that's
people
fair.
that'll get something out of it. It seems weird to say this given the scope of what goes on in the game and, like, the amount, the development history behind it. But part of me wants to go, hey, it's a neat experiment. You can just do things multiple different ways. I will say that the gameplay, like the combat aspect of it, seemed a little fun. Like, it almost, part of me, it's like I twitched a little. I'm like, is this going to give me the like fight for my life thing I've been begging for forever? But no, that doesn't really seem to be the case. And I gotta say, like, you know, you mentioned it's like, oh, the game doesn't have a tutorial. That doesn't bother me, really. Like,
Well,
as far as lack of,
it doesn't bother me either, but the
whatnot.
fact that the game has as many systems in it that it does, and then, like, no, it doesn't explain anything to you, that it kind of, it doesn't necessarily bother me. It just seems really weird. Like, they couldn't be bothered to include the simplest text image of, like, this is how this works. Like, that's it.
There does part of what I heard about the development, and also some things like what was it? It's something. It doesn't run on certain processors. Like, it doesn't support,
really?
like Intel Arc processors. It doesn't support, or something like that, or Intel Arc
That
graphics.
I'm not entirely shocked by.
But I'm just saying, like, that kind of compatibility issue seems like an oversight that normal development and thought through development wouldn't make. Like, it's not like a glaring red flag, like burn it all down, but it's like, it makes me go, ooh, like I see a crack in the wall, you know? So that's really all I have to say about it. Is that was my last comment. Is like, it doesn't run on a certain type of processor, and that seems strange to me.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because I've just seen so many things from so many different viewpoints on Crimson Desert. I just thought it was worth talking about because it's not every day we get a game that is just this enormous. I don't even think Starfield was this big. And I actually played Starfield for a couple hours until I figured out that it was just another fucking Bethesda game, and I had no interest in it whatsoever. So yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to shoot the shit with you on that one because, again, it's kind of fascinating. But I don't really have anything else. That was all my news stories. We already talked about Modern Warfare, which, can I just say that the whole Modern Warfare situation is just, it is still crazy to me because the way that game presents itself is so much more mature than everything that came after it, that people would still rather go back and play it 7 years later than play whatever's out now. I just, yeah. Oh, God.
I mean, it's
we were
really,
this close to greatness.
I mean, we did hit greatness. They just didn't follow through. I will say it's interesting, like, that there's this resurgence there. They might be testing the waters. Maybe that's why it was on such a a massive sale because they like the rumors are they want to do like another Modern Warfare level reboot or rebranding, and I'm like, I don't think you're gonna have that pull the second time. I think there's a lot of people like it's a completely different beast because like back when Modern Warfare 2019 came out, there was a lot of people like you and me who was just like we liked Call of Duty when it was better. You like went down this long path of like just losing your way, but like we would like to come back and play it, and then they made it, and then they kind of squandered all of that trust and that resurgence, and now on top of the people like you and me who are just like, I don't know if I want to get fooled again, you now have this outrageous hate mob which isn't going anywhere, and I don't think you can reasonably do another reboot or even pull it off.
Oh God. Yeah. That's crazy. Just listen to your fucking fans. At the time, Modern Warfare 19 was the best-selling Call of Duty game ever. Full stop. I think that got dethroned by Black Ops 6, but
it wouldn't surprise me. But the thing that's more the thing that's most impressive about that is something that a lot of people don't talk about is like it is incredibly difficult for a game to do outrageously well without a tremendous amount of word of mouth behind it, or like a successful game that it's a sequel to. It's typically like like Resident Evil 4 was very well received and it sold decently, and then Resident Evil 5 sold more because of the expectations from 4, and then Resident Evil 6, despite being one of the most polarizing games of its nature, sold ridiculously well because of how 5 and 4 were received. So it's like to have a game like Call of Duty on the outs for as long as it was, to be able to pull back enough people just from saying we're gonna do what you guys wanted. We're gonna go back to our roots. We're gonna do boots on the ground, back to basics. All these terms that like people just toss around and don't follow through on. They actually did.
It wasn't even just the whole boots on the ground thing, because technically Black Ops 6 and 7 are boots on the ground. It was the whole presentation of the package. It was a much more mature, dark, gritty experience. Like the skins that they came out with, they got a little bit crazier as the life cycle of Modern Warfare 19 went on, but they started out very grounded, very realistic, and still cool enough that I wanted to take out my wallet and spend money on them. Like just this simple addition of tracer rounds in your rifle was cool enough that I was like, yeah, I'd buy that. And they just went completely off the fucking rails with like the master-crafted bundles and everything like that. I really don't want to start talking about COD like in depth again, but
would you prefer I go back to Guilty Gear Strive and talk about the recently censored character that I didn't get a chance to talk about in my fighting game world?
No, absolutely not.
Did you not see me bang my head against the wall in the fucking localization and censorship channel that we have here?
Yeah, I purposely didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. What was I going to say?
Because you're like, I just let it run its course.
Yeah, pretty much. Like a bad virus. Anyway, so that's all I got. If you have anything else, I only have like 10 more minutes. You can squeeze something out, but that is all I got for this episode.
I think that's everything we have. Is there anything left on here? Did I forget anything?
I went down the list like pretty much item for item.
Occasionally there's like a smaller thing that no, I think that's everything. There are some other things, but as per usual, I like to let them sit, and we don't necessarily have time for DLSS, so I think that's a good place to call it.
All right, cool. Well, if you're still listening, this was episode 90 of the Pregame Network podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Getting real close to that triple-digit number. We got to do something for episode 100. I don't know what, but we got to do something.
Maybe we'll think of some special topics to go over. We'll do something.
It's a good idea.
We'll figure it out though. But I don't want to say too much on the 100th episode because like I'll have my emotional spiel that day, I suppose, or whatever.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, on that note, thank you, everyone, for listening, if you're still listening, and we'll be back again next week to talk about everything that happens this week. So until that time, take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.